Welcome to the Gaming Pulpit. This is your host, All Things Sony. If you liked the video, let me know in the comments what you liked or disliked about the video. And if you liked it, a sub will be appreciated. Let's start it off. So, what I have here is that there's news been popping off. The writer of Horizon Zero Dawn has finally left Guerrilla Games. And of course, everybody's talking about there's tumultuous time with Sony Studios and stuff like that. Now, what people don't understand is that John Gonzalez is not native to Europe at all. But he stayed there. And Horizon Zero Dawn is supposed to be a trilogy. So he had his input with the story. You know, basically, I want to say this too. He's a freelance, essentially. He freelances. And that's what's going on with him leaving. He was never a part of Guerrilla Games. And I remember seeing this before too. I was kind of wondering myself as to what was really going on with John Gonzalez. But it seems to be like he freelanced. So what he ended up doing is they had a concept with Horizon Zero Dawn. That's basically it was actually a co-op game where you would hunt mechanical machines. That was the concept. But Guerrilla Games, they didn't know how to make that into a thing, you know what I'm saying? So that's where John Gonzalez came in. They ended up contacting him and asking him what would he have done with this concept. So he made the story of, you know, the world coming into an apocalyptic event, and that's why the machines were where they were. You play the game for us, you know, I don't want to spoil it, whatever the case is. And he basically wrote the entire story, the whole trilogy. So if they need him, Guerrilla Games, they will contact him again, but he doesn't need to be there anymore. He doesn't. He wrote the story. He finished up all of the potential things that you could do with the game, and then he's out. He's actually joining, if I'm not mistaken, a Chinese company. If it's not Chinese, let me know in the comments if I'm accurate or not accurate. But he's pretty much, you know, he's a freelance. There's nothing crazy going on with Guerrilla Games. It's just that he was never part of it. I think he moved to Europe, wherever Guerrilla Games is located, to finish that stuff, and he was there for a while. I don't know if he's married or not, but that would fucking suck to be in some place for fucking like 3 or 4 years. It's like the fucking military. And if you have a family, you know what I mean? He's not native to the area. So, okay, on to the next topic. I didn't want to add this in there. I mean, well, actually, I did. I wanted to put in Ghost of Tsushima early impressions, but I couldn't fit that on the top of the screen, and I didn't want it really small. And I'm a stickler with fonts and shit like that. And this is the best I could do with the fucking shit I have. Y'all ain't paying me. Shut up. So, there has been a reviewer. He reviewed, you know, the game. Or he just finished it, I should say. His name is John. You can find him. You can search Ghost of Tsushima and then John, and you should be able to find it. I don't have all the information. It's irrelevant. I'm not big enough to be crediting people and shit like that. But he ended up saying this, in case you didn't know. He says it's an amazing experience, a new standard for open world stealth. The storytelling is on par with Karusaka Sagwa. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not fucking Japanese, but whatever that is, it's supposed to be really, really good. Now, the same thing kind of happened with Days Gone, where people were saying that it's on the par of The Last of Us, the first The Last of Us. So it's like, I don't know if I want to believe that. You know what I mean? It's like, do I really want to believe that? But gameplay wise, I know that Sucker Punch is definitely on point. They have always been on point. And you can look at the Sly Coopers. They have a really good understanding on how stealth works and just open world stuff. But from what I can see here, it just looks like it's going to be so good. It's going to be so good. But the impressions so far are good. I mean, a lot of people are worried that, you know, the embargo for the reviews are basically really just up against the release date. And I just think that it's the type of game. It's the same thing happened with what was it? Demon Souls, where, you know, Sony didn't have enough faith. You know what I mean with that shit. And I feel like that was one of the fucking problems. It was just not enough faith. it's a Japanese game. You know what I mean? Release it's a traditional Japanese, so it's not even stylistic anime type shit. It's just real Japanese lore and not lore but history actually. That's based off of history. So some fictional events and stuff like that. So it's kind of that's a hard sell. You know what I mean? If they try to sell, I mean, maybe they could have sold it like a Souls type game, but it's really not because of the open world setup. So we don't know, but the impressions are super good, and actually pretty hyped. I'm pretty excited that they even that it even got to that level. I know it's gonna be a really good game. I think it's gonna be a sleeper hit. That's what I truly believe. It's supposed to be a 40-hour game too, so it's super long. And it gives you. I think it's. I mean, they give you enough time. I mean, they give you a whole scenario as to how you want to approach things. So if you're not that kind of dude that wants to do things and sneak, you can just wait until the sunrise, which everything's dynamic. You can wait until the sunrise and shit like that, and there you have it, and you can be all actiony and shit like that. So there's that. So I'm happy. I'm excited. Let's go on to the next subject. So Sony invests $250 million in stocks, and Epic Games, and that is a very small percentage as to what Epic Games is actually worth. Something along the lines of like 1 or 2 or 3%, maybe 10% if anything. And it's you need to note that it's not the game sector that actually purchased them. It's actually Sony as a whole. Now, Epic Games and their engine, the Unreal Engine, actually uses or there's CGI that uses it. I think there was a Disney Star Wars show, Magno. I don't know what the fuck it is. You know what it is, but they use the Unreal Engine, and Sony wants a stake in it. This is very easy money for them. Easy money. So they don't have to really invest too much into it. It's not really about the say. It's just getting the money, basically. That's all it is to it. It's about getting the free money. You put money into it, a service, and you get money out that way. That's just how it works. But people were thinking, oh, this is the reason why, they were giving high praises to the PlayStation 5. No, I think they were giving high praises just to give high praises. You know what I mean? It was probably very offline rendered centric, the way that their engine works. And it was probably, the workflow is probably very easy to take things offline and put it into the engine and mix it in real time. So they probably saw that the architecture that the PS5 had made it really easy for that type of stuff to happen. Now, I don't know if you remember with that Unreal demo, they had objects were fucking millions and millions of fucking polygons a second. Now it scales up to it, like basically it's like free LOD or level of detail. So the closer you get, the engine starts to multiply or subdivide the polygons and make more of them. Essentially, makes it smoother. So you could just basically whatever you're doing offline, you could just port it in there, and the system, the engine does the rest. My point in this is that nothing is really dynamic in that case. The lighting is, but the actual polygon stuff is. So I think that the engine, the architecture for the PlayStation 5 is very friendly to offline renders in that particular case, and it's what Sony wanted anyway. Sony, if you really peep what they do a lot of cinematic stuff. So I think that in general, it kind of flows what offlines currently do. So that's how I look at it. But I don't think that they were complimenting them because of a meager $250 million when the company is worth like $9 billion and shit like that. That is almost nothing in the grand scheme of things. You know what I'm saying? So Sony is just looking to and get money back. That's all it is to it. So I wouldn't look too deeply into it. It's not even going to help them with exclusive rights or anything. It's too small of an amount to really have any type of say into it. It's very small say. So don't give your hopes up on any kind of exclusive deals. Next topic. So supposedly new patents arise essentially for the PlayStation 5, stating that there is backwards compatibility for PlayStation 1, 2, and 3. But it's the caveat here is it's on a fucking cloud. That's the issue. It's on a fucking cloud. And it's supposed to be some sort of system that mimics the operating system and emulates the games and stuff like that. What they did with the original PlayStation now is that they basically have PlayStation 3 server blades and shit like that to do it, which is highly ineffective. So it'll be to their best interest to have a real emulator. And I guess they wanted to kind of invest the money into it because they wanted to fluff up their service, which is the PlayStation Now. But I hope it's the PlayStation 5 that they can use for the blades, and I hope that there's some sort of backwards compatibility. We just don't know. There's so much stuff about the PS5 that we don't know. Cost and all, and just the philosophy of the PlayStation 5, other than fast loading. You know what I mean? Just fast is what we know about the PlayStation 5. But a lot of people are kind of like concerned, and honestly, I use concern as a real. You know, I'm not making fun of anything. I mean, I'm a little concerned about it. That's kind of like scummy if Sony decides to, release an emulator only for the servers, and where the PlayStation 5 could clearly take care of it. So I'm really not down for that. It's kind of fucked up if you ask me. But hopefully, it's some other things that came with that patent. It was in Japanese and whatnot. Stuff like instant game trials and stuff like that, which they already promised with the PlayStation 4. Now there was a reason why they couldn't do it. Not that Sony was greedy, but the developers kind of consulted, and this is back when PlayStation was not a leader, you know what I mean? Or if they were a leader, they weren't a leader enough to make decisions. But, people knew that they were going to make shitty games or games that were kind of mediocre, and they didn't want to discourage a buyer from buying their game. So they're like, no, I don't want a free trial. The person could buy the game, and they can return it if they don't fucking like it. However way they want to return it, that's the end of it. But I don't want them to try it out and don't like it and then return it. And then just never buy it. You know what I mean? Plus, you got patches and shit like that. So I wouldn't even look into that too much either. It's most likely this still is not going to be a feature. Maybe for a first party, if even, first and second party. There's just a whole bunch of things that you can buy, this pieces of the parts of the game that you wanted. Like, so for instance, if you didn't like The Last of Us and what they did, you can literally buy the multiplayer if it had multiplayer. That's an example. So really, we're talking about the backwards compatibility. I wouldn't really give your hopes up on it playing PlayStation 1, 2, and 3. It should be powerful enough to do it, but I just can't see it really being done. I can't. I would love it to happen because I would like to play the MotorStorm series again. I would love to play it, gain some trophies and whatnot. But I already know that you can't do that, and they make it a pain in the ass. And plus, Shadow of the Colossus, I'm a real big fan of the original one, not the new one, because they fucked up on the main character model. It looks stupid. But yeah, let's hope for the best. Let's hope for the best.